if you guys are looking for a set 5-day split for the rest of your life, this one is it. Alright, what's going on YouTube? I saw another creator use this format to kind of explain a lot, and I really liked it, so I'm going to LARP the heck out of it. And today we're going to go over my full workout split, kind of the pros and cons, how to run it, tips and tricks, you know, why it's better than other splits in my opinion. Yeah, we'll just take a deep dive into push-pull legs, upper lower, the land of science. It's a very beautiful place that I've crawled into. I never expected myself to be a science-based lifter, but here we are. I did run bro split for about a year and a half, and I fully enjoyed it. It was just, just wasn't for me at the end of the day. So but yeah, this video is entirely educational. Take it for what you will, and just know that my advice is coming from me. I'm not a professional resource at all. I'm just a guy who enjoys the gym and wants to share that hobby with the world. So anything I know, I want you guys to know. Just a little quick plug here. I do have a program coming out on this split very soon here. I'll keep you guys updated with that. It's going to be like $15, and it's going to cover this split, pretty much everything I explained in this video. So if you don't want to buy that program, watch the rest of this video. This will cover pretty much everything you need to know for push-pull legs, upper lower, dieting and whatnot. And if you guys like this style of video, let me know and I'll make more of them in the future. So let's get into it. Okay, so we do have a push-pull legs, upper lower. Now this split is the one that I've personally been running for, I want to say, since, when did I start this? I think towards the end of April was when I switched over to push-pull legs, upper lower. And it's been one of the most beneficial things that I've ever done for my physique, in my opinion, just because you do get those 2 rest days after the leg day. So let me go ahead and draw this really quick. You get the rest day here, and then you get the rest day here, and then it just, it's a never-ending cycle where it rinses and repeats itself over and over again after those 2 rest days. And this is my personal favorite split. After running it for a month and a half, I can tell you that if you guys are looking for a set 5-day split for the rest of your life, this one is it. Now, just some clarity and some side notes. No split is perfect. Okay, no split is going to give you, magical gains the way, like any, can I change this color? Yeah, nice. No split is perfect. Okay, no split. There's not a single split out there that's going to give you more gains than the other. Like I said, I ran bro split, which is chest, back, arms, legs, rest, and repeat. So it's pretty much like a 10-day split. It's a 10-day cycle, and that's like the most outdated one that people tend to hate on. But I ran that for a year and a half, and you guys follow me not only for my lifting advice or my videos, but for my physique in general, you know what I mean? So I achieved where I have gotten. Not that my physique is anything special in my opinion, but I have achieved this level of physique off of a lot of bro splitting. So obviously you don't have to be the most optimal person in the world. I definitely am not, but it's definitely achievable if you work hard. So no split's gonna give you, any gains or more gains than the other. It's just if I was, again, if I was 16 years old and I was running this, I do think that where I'm at now as a 20-year-old, I'd be a lot further along. But I'm not. Again, I've only been doing this for a month and a half, so just, again, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, but just trust the fact that I've been doing this for a good amount of time to kind of know like what's good versus what's bad, if that makes sense. Okay, moving on, we have the pros and cons of the push-pull legs upper lower split. Let's start with the pros of the split, which again I said 2 rest days. So, oh God, my writing is so bad. 2 rest days. There we go. Okay. So you get 2 rest days. So exciting, which the gym is not supposed to be everything. It's not supposed to be, the highlight of your day, but to me it is. So those 2 rest days are extremely boring, and half the time I do end up at the gym anyways just to do like core and cardio, which is not how I'm supposed to be programming this, but I'm not perfect, you know what I mean? Yeah, so basically you do get 2 rest days, which you should just take fully off, and that's really good for recovery. So we'll go ahead and add a little thing here, equals bonus recovery. So having those 2 rest days is very important because you do get the extra recovery time that you wouldn't get otherwise. But so yeah, that's definitely a pro, is that you do get those 2 rest days and you get the bonus recovery. And a lot of your gains will be made outside of the gym in terms of dieting and how you do rest. But again, we'll get into that. Obviously, another pro of this split is that you get 2 times frequency on all of your workouts, which again is very important, and it's not something that I used to live by, and it's still something that I don't fully stand by, but it's not going to hurt you at all to get that 2-time frequency, which means that every week each muscle group is getting hit twice a week. And if you're looking to kind of grow a well-rounded physique, this is probably the best approach, is hitting each muscle group twice a week. Now, upper, lower, and some of those other splits or full body do offer the 3 times a week, frequency, but science has really proven that isn't going to make much. It's a very fractional and marginal difference. So 2 times frequency, huge plus compared to like bro split, and kind of any of those other weird splits where you might get a day here and a day there where you miss a certain muscle group, and that kind of just, you don't want to have any like sagging muscle groups, especially if you're trying to compete or build, again, a well-rounded physique. You don't want to be that guy who kind of pulls up to the gym looking like this. Eggman from Sonic. Yeah, you don't want to be this dude. Like, you got that like crazy upper torso, but then your legs are genuinely like chicken sticks. This is exactly who we don't want to look like. If your split is not 2 times frequency, you might end up with legs like Eggman here. This is not who we want to look like, dude. So we don't want to look like Eggman. We're going to do a split with 2 times frequency. Okay, and then the third and final kind of like good pro here with push-pull legs upper lower being very easy to progress. And the reason for this is because you do have that 2 times frequency, you're going to be doing certain movements twice a week. Therefore, you might find it easier to progress in them other than hitting them once a week. So, for example, on my push day, I will do an incline bench, and on my upper day, I will typically do an incline bench. Or I'll do, a flat bench on my push day, and I'll do a flat bench on my upper day. Or I'll do a pec fly on my push day, and I'll do a pec fly on my upper day. So doing these movements multiple times throughout the week is going to make them very easy to progress. If we go ahead and draw another arrow here, having easy progression equals more strength, which we know strength is directly correlated with what? Hypertrophy. There we go. Alright, so we know strength is directly related. Oh, I spelled that wrong. There we go. Let's get rid of that 1E. Hypertrophy. Bang. We know strength is directly correlated with hypertrophy. Therefore, it's going to be very easy to build a better physique if you are causing more hypertrophy. And we know that is pretty much the leading driver of muscle growth. So this is very good. Now we have 3 great pros, right? You're getting bonus recovery, you're getting multiple frequency, and now it's getting very easy to progress, which means you're going to get stronger, which means you're going to build more muscle. So if you ever look at a guy who squats 500 pounds, he's likely a lot larger than the guy who squats 135 pounds. Now, why is that? Because his muscles are bigger, okay? That's plain and simple. There's a few outliers there, and you've seen guys who specifically train to do certain things, but that is because they're training their muscles for that exact purpose. Me personally, because I do have a relatively decent chest, I can walk into a gym and bench 315 pounds. Probably, I'm guessing. Last time I maxed out, didn't go the best in my personal opinion. But that is to say, I feel like my chest has grown since December, and if it hasn't, then screw me. But all in all, the bigger your chest is, the likelier it is going to be easier to bench more. Okay, the smaller your chest is, it's going to be a lot harder, unless that is strictly what you're training. That makes some sort of sense. So I never look at like a guy who does powerlifting and I look at him and he's not the biggest guy, but he can clean and jerk 400 pounds. Like, obviously it blows my mind that he's able to do that. I don't like directly correlate powerlifting with size, but if you look at people like Eddie Hall and Thor and those like really big powerlifters, and you look at the numbers they're putting up, bro, if you put a 180 pound dude in that same weight, like in that same group, and you try to ask him to lift that same amount of weight, even if he trains for it, it's not possible. So size and strength does correlate with muscle mass and hypertrophy. Now moving on to the cons of push-pull legs upper lower. It's very few and far between. but there's definitely some out there, so let's go ahead and cover them really quick before we move on to how to program this split. Okay, the first con of push-pull legs upper lower is that it can be bad if it's programmed poorly. Now, this can go with any split, and it all really ties back to the fact that no split is perfect, especially if you program it the wrong way. But it's especially true with this one, because if you're looking at the push day, the pull day, the leg day, the upper day, or the lower day, if you don't rotate which muscle groups you start with on each of those sessions, you're going to end up with one being worse than the other. So for example, on your push day, you're training 3 different muscle groups. You have your chest, your shoulders, and your triceps, right? You shouldn't start every single push day with your chest, or you shouldn't start it all the time with your shoulders. But I would definitely put your weak point first. So let's say out of those 3, my shoulders are the worst muscle group, right? I'm going to put those first in the session and train my shoulders first, my chest second, and my triceps third. But also, you could do this. You could do 1 shoulder exercise, 1 chest exercise, 1 tricep exercise, 1 shoulder exercise, 1 chest exercise, 1 tricep exercise, and do it that way. Or you could do 2 shoulder exercises, really bang out the shoulder volume, do the chest, tricep, or you can do shoulder, chest, tricep. It's really crazy how you can program it to whatever you want and however it fits your body, and that's why I'm saying no split is perfect. It is up to you to make a split good or not. So if it's not programmed the right way, it's going to be bad and it's going to affect you negatively. And you might end up looking like Eggman, okay? That's all. I would say the second con of push-pull legs upper lower is that upper day after the leg day, okay? So that upper day might be pulled down and weighed down by what we call CNS fatigue. So that's your central nervous system, especially after that leg day. God, dude, I hope you guys can read all this. That upper day might be negatively affected by that leg day, and that's just kind of a truth that goes with any session. Like your pull day might get negatively affected by your push day, but it's especially true with this because the upper day is very long. It's going to end up being like an hour and a half, because I do 7 exercises for it, and we'll get into which ones I do. No matter how many you're doing, it's going to take a bit longer because, again, you do have like a large amount of muscle groups in your upper body. So if we go ahead and break down like the muscle groups that are in your upper body, right? You have your Your chest, your back, your shoulders, your biceps, your triceps, and I think that's it. But each of those muscle groups have different functions. So your chest is going to end up getting 2 exercises. Your back will end up getting 2. And then the rest, other 1. So you end up getting left with a total of 7 exercises, which can be pretty taxing, especially after a leg day. This is how you might end up looking after that. Skull might be dead. Might be very, very tired, okay? So those 2 things are really just the 2 cons of push-pull legs upper lower, is that it can be bad if you don't set it up the right way, and that upper day could be pretty exhausting, especially after that leg day. I wouldn't say that lower day is going to be too bad after that upper day, because your legs do cause more damage on your central nervous system than your upper body workouts do. But yeah, overall, that is pretty much the pros and cons of push-pull legs upper lower. So let's go ahead and get into how to program it. So let's get into the programming of push-pull legs upper lower, and it's actually a really easy split in my opinion to program. I think that a lot of people mess up with it just because they're kind of confused and they don't know how to equate volume and everything. But one thing right off the bat before we go ahead and get into this, I want to say do not copy this split 1 for 1. How I program this should not be the same way you program this, okay? So the reason I say that is because on my push day, if I do chest first and I do shoulder second, that means I'm really trying to prioritize my chest in that specific session. However, if your shoulders are a lagging muscle group, then I would recommend doing your shoulders first instead of your chest. So the way I program mine might not be the same way you program yours, but again, this is about how I program my workouts, and that's what I'm sharing with you today. We'll go ahead and make like a master key here. Equipment doesn't matter. Does not matter, okay? So that means it doesn't matter if you're doing things on a machine, if you do it free weight, blah, blah, blah. It's all the same thing. So that's why we're only going to be focused on patterns, okay? So workout patterns is basically the exercises and how your muscle anatomy makes, you know, your body work. If I do a bicep curl like this, it doesn't matter if I do it on a cable or with a dumbbell, I'm still just flexing my elbow. Does that make sense? So we're really just focusing on patterns of certain exercises rather than specific exercises themselves. So it's different, like when I say incline bench, I don't mean it on a Smith machine. I just mean doing an incline bench in general. You could do it with dumbbells, you could do it on a Smith machine, you could do it with a barbell, you can literally do an incline bench however you want. Just the fact that you're doing an incline bench is what I'm focused on. And third, volume is personal. We'll go ahead and put this here. I personally do 2 to 3 sets on every single exercise within a 5 to 10 rep range. Now the reason for this is because when I was going through my, you know, very early beginning of lifting, I did 4 sets of 10 on everything. I feel like just kind of how everyone else does, and that's because that's what I read online, it's the videos I watched, and that's how I was influenced. However, once I got into like the nitty-gritty research, I realized that that is way too much volume. I wasn't recovering properly, and there's a reason my test had dropped significantly, and it was because I was exhausted. Okay, so doing 4 sets on everything, on every single thing, especially if you're running a 2 times frequency split, is not the best or most ideal approach. But like I said, volume is personal, so if you like it, do it. I'm not going to be the one to tell you not to, but I personally do 2 to 3 sets within a 5 to 10 rep range. And the reason I do 5 to 10 is because it's been shown that muscle growth occurs within a 5 to 30 rep range. However, anything past 10, so once you get past 10, the kind of amount of muscle growth that you can find compared to the amount of fatigue that will incur just kind of goes like this. So, or goes like this. So you'll be getting more fatigue for not as much gains. That doesn't really, you know, make sense in my mind. I'd rather have it be equal. So if I'm doing anything, I want to make sure I'm building an equal or proportionate amount of muscle that I am tiredness. You know what I mean? It doesn't really make sense to do it otherwise. So that's it. That's the kind of the precursors to what I want to say before we go ahead and get into the programming of it. So let's go ahead and walk through the push day, which first we'll start with incline bench. It's going to be a upper pec bias exercise. When people say that certain exercises bias different regions of a muscle group, they're not saying that it doesn't work out the entire muscle. It's just that it's going to build a different part of that muscle group a little, like I'm talking like 1% more than the other. So people say that incline bench is an upper pec biased exercise, whereas in reality it still hits your entire chest. So if I were to just do an incline bench on my upper day, you're still working your entire chest. It's just going to bias this region of your chest slightly more. It's also going to work your front delt, but we'll get into that in a second. The second exercise of our chest movements in the push day is going to be a pec fly. Bang. Now again, the same thing with the pec fly. This is my personal favorite exercise of all time. I think that it is the reason my chest has grown the way it has. It's honestly, it's so stable because you can get a back support no matter how you do it. I never really do freestanding cable flies. I just don't think that's a really good exercise in my opinion. But again, this is all me, not a doctor, not a physician, or whatever they call these people. Dude, what happened to my one up here? Like disappeared. 1 for 1. There you go. Yeah, I would just say like pec fly is the reason, in my opinion, that my chest has grown to this degree. So I'll just leave it at that. It's pretty simple. The next exercise for your shoulders is going to be a shoulder press. Now this is going to primarily work your front and side delts, not really hit your rear delt at all. But this is just an overall great shoulder exercise, and you could do it literally however you want, whether it's with a dumbbell on a machine, whether you do a barbell overhead press, it really doesn't matter. As long as you're doing some form of this, you're good. But like I said, a shoulder press does work your front delt, which is also involved in your incline bench. So we'll go ahead and write that here, front. Got it. Hey, wait, this looks good. Yes, works your front delt, which again is also worked over here, and we'll make a little key that this means overlapping. Okay, so there's certain exercises that work overlapping muscle groups. So for example, when I do A lat pull down, yes, I am doing a lat pull down, but it has an overlapping thing with my just overall back in general. Okay, so you could get away again with growing your back just doing a lat pull down. Would I recommend it? Heck no. But that's not, we're not here for recommendations. You guys are here for, you know, the split that I run, and that's why I do it. The next shoulder exercise is just going to be a lateral raise. Now this is the key to growing a cap delt. In my opinion, you can perform it on cables, dumbbells, whatever you want. If my gym had a good lateral raise machine, I would be using it. I think that's the best way to do them. But personally, I just use dumbbells because that's what I'm the most comfortable with. The first tricep exercise is simply going to be a tricep extension. Now, your triceps have two motions. You're extending through your elbows and then you're pushing through your elbows. So that's why the second tricep exercise is simply a tricep press. Now, like I said, the way you organize these exercises in your session can literally be whatever way you want. You could go incline bench into a lateral raise, into a tricep press, into a pec fly, into a tricep extension, into a shoulder press. Or you could do it incline bench, pec fly, shoulder press, lateral raise, tricep extension, tricep press. Or tricep extension, incline bench, pec fly, lateral raise, shoulder press, tricep press. Like, it really doesn't matter. It's all personal. So that's why I say, do not copy this one for one, okay? Just wanted to make that very clear. Don't copy this one for one, all right? Moving on to our pull day. The first exercise on our pull day is gonna go ahead and be a lat pull down. If I can type. This is primarily gonna work your lats and be the reason that you have wings. Zoom. You guys ever watch Aliens in the Attic? Zoom. When the guy's in the thing, he's on like little toggle thing and he's like zoom, you know what I'm talking. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Am I just a nerd? I don't know, maybe. But dude, I need to go outside more. Oh man. But yeah, like, dude, Aliens in the Attic was so peak. Like, I miss when my life, bro, was simply just watching movies. Like, dude, I would go to school, and when I graduated preschool, my mom got me Power Rangers Turbo 4. Like, it was like, hold on, bro, I'll literally pull up the exact movie she got me. Hold on one sec. So don't mind the guy just bending over. If I go and find Power Rangers Turbo. Yes, dude. Oh my god. No, the movie. Yes, dude. Okay, this movie, bro, my mom got me literally the day I graduated preschool, and this like started my nerdum, if that makes sense. Can I coin that word, nerdum? I love this movie. You know what? I wonder if this is on streaming. Just gotta rent it, bro. But yeah, dude, goated movie, you guys. If you guys are a Power Rangers fan, this is honestly my favorite one, Power Rangers Turbo. Anyways, moving back on to important things. You guys should leave the gym with lats that rival these wings right here. That is like the goal of a pull day, is to have wings like this. Red Bull gives you what? Red Bull gives you wing. And moving on to the next back exercise, we're gonna do a horizontal row. Now, what I mean by that, horizontal row. What I mean by that is your elbows are gonna be flared outwards, and you're gonna be rowing like this. And that's simply to work your upper back and your traps. And then we're also gonna do a vertical row, where your elbows are kind of digging into your sides. And oh, I forgot to mention, with your lat pull down, you should really dig your elbows into your hips. So it's a very just like elbow movement, okay? You're just hitting your back from multiple angles. But again, if we're trying to, you know, grow our back the most optimally, hitting it from these different angles is probably the best approach, rather than just relying on a lat pull down to grow our back, or a horizontal row, or a vertical row. Moving on in the pull day, we're gonna go ahead and move into our bicep curl 1, which I'll also put 1 and 2 here. Now, I simply say 1 and 2 because you literally just pick your 2 favorite bicep exercises and try to get stronger. Like I said, your bicep has one function, and it's this. Like literally going like this and rotating your wrist isn't really going to do anything too much. The reason I do hammer curls is to kind of grow my forearms because of that grip that you have to hold it with, rather than this. But that's literally my only personal reason. So I say, like, if you are programming push-pull legs up or lower, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. I would just pick your 2 favorite bicep curls and focus on improving it that way. And then to finish off our pull day, we're going to go ahead and do a rear delt fly. And now the reason I do a rear delt fly on my pull day is because if our push day included that, which is rear delts is technically part of your shoulders, then our push day would be 7 exercises and our pull day would be 5. And that's just, you would have so much overlapping fatigue going into that pull day, that we just want to keep that push day as short as possible. So we end up doing 6 and 6, which makes it a lot easier and nicer. But your rear delts pretty much is what caps the back side of your shoulder. And again, like if you can isolate that rather than just relying on your horizontal row for it, then we're going to go ahead and do that. So we'll go ahead and give it stars here for overlapping fatigue. Now moving on to everyone's favorite day, we have a leg day. Well, it's not my personal favorite day, definitely, but leg day has definitely grown on me as of recently. I used to be a very avid like leg day hater, but that was just because like my brain like wasn't fully developed yet. And that was until I looked at myself wearing a pair of shorts and I realized I just had to, you know, suck it up, be a man, and work on my legs. So obviously with a leg day, you start with a squat pattern. And when I say squat pattern, this does include a leg press. And if I'm being 100% honest, in my opinion, a leg press, hold on, let me go ahead and write above here that this includes leg press. In my opinion, leg press is the most effective form of squatting. Now this is like the craziest take that I've ever said, but leg press is the best quad isolation exercise, especially if you're going to do a squat. Why wouldn't you do a leg press? Like if you're trying to develop your quad like that, why not? Because a squat, like if you look at the fact of a squat involving your lower back and your glutes rather than just a leg press where you're literally pressing through your quad and it's doing the same function without those other two muscle groups, then how is leg press not better than a squat pattern? And if I'm isolating the other groups in this session, which I am, how is it not better? So until someone can fully explain that to me, I'm going to stand by that and say that a leg press is a squat pattern. And if you can do a leg press, I would. It's going to be less taxing on your body. It's going to be way easier to grow your quads. And I've honestly seen the most leg growth that I ever have simply from doing leg press. Crazy take, but that's my take. The next is going to be any form of hip hinge where you're literally bending over, which is why I had that photo of that guy pulled up, and hopefully I can find it again. Yes, come here, guy. So, no, why are you? Now, see, that looks sus. There we go. Okay, so this is literally a hip hinge where you're just bending over. We'll go ahead and draw an arrow there so people don't think I'm weird. That's a hip hinge. Okay, so you're literally bending over and you're training this part of your hamstring while it also trains this part of your glutes. I would say this is very, very important to include in your leg day, as there are things in your leg curl that you won't be getting any activation without a RDL or SLDL. So we'll go ahead and say that it does include RDL, SLDL. So that means a Romanian deadlift or a stiff leg deadlift. And a stiff leg deadlift, you wouldn't really have this knee bend here. It would literally just be straight up and down. But yeah, then we're gonna move on to our isolation exercises with a leg extension, which is again just your quads. But this also trains different parts of your quads that you won't get in any form of squat pattern. And then also a leg curl, which trains different parts of your hamstrings that you're not gonna get in any form of hip hinge. And then the last 3 exercises are all optional exercises in my opinion, but I'm putting them in here because I do feel like most people should do them. However, there are definitely outliers to who could not. And the first one's going to be a calf raise. Now, I have friends and family who just genuinely have never trained their calves, and their calves are 8 times the size as mine. And that's just genetics, bro. That's one of the biggest like genetic strong points that a lot of people have, is either their calves are really big or really small. And that's just the way like the world spins, man, and there's nothing you can do about it. I genuinely have been training my calves nonstop for the last year and a half, and I don't think they've grown. Maybe that's a me problem, but whatever. Moving on, we also have a hip thrust, which your glutes are trained in a type of hip hinge movement because you are squeezing your glutes at the top of a rep. I just don't think a lot of men key in on that, which is why I would include a hip thrust. It's something that I started doing personally after getting back from California, just because I did have a lot of conversations with people, and if I do want to compete in the future, I'm going to need well-developed glutes, and that's something that I have definitely been lagging on. In the past, my glutes were a lot more developed than they are now. I used to wear jeans, and they used to be so tight, but now I can just slip them on, and that was so sad, like that realization. So hip thrust for your glutes. We're also going to finally add your adductors, which is just the squeezing of your thigh, or the good girl, bad girl machine. And that's just another one where it's just going to train parts of your inner thigh that aren't trained anywhere else. But if you're not competing or like doing this to train your legs like to the most serious degree, I wouldn't really consider these as very like you don't need them. So we'll go ahead and highlight it purple, which is just they're optional. Okay, I shrunk myself down here just so you guys can see a little bit better, especially on this upper day, which we're gonna have to, I would say, move down a little bit. So let's go ahead and bring these down here. Your upper day is honestly, this is my favorite workout of all time, just because you do get a full upper body pump, and who wouldn't want that. But I will say that this is going to be very just kind of basic. I'm just going to say like the exercise patterns, what to do, and then it's really just up to you to fill them. So we're going to go ahead and start with 2 chest exercises. Now the reason I say 2 chest exercises is simply because you can do whichever ones that you prefer. Now it doesn't have to be a pec fly, it doesn't have to be an incline bench. It could literally be an incline bench and a flat press. I wouldn't do 2 incline presses, I wouldn't do 2 flat presses, but you could really do whatever 2 chest exercises you want. It's just that I would recommend doing these 2 just to help get that overall volume throughout the week. And then we're also going to go ahead and add in a lat pull down. Again, doesn't matter what type of grip you use, just as long as you do that function of you driving your elbows into your hips in some shape or form while keeping your spine neutral, you'll be good. Then we'll add a horizontal row just for more upper back activation throughout the week. We'll go ahead and add your bicep curl, your tricep exercise, because it doesn't matter if you're going to do a press or an extension. As long as you train your tricep today on the upper day, you'll be fine. And then we'll go ahead and finish off with a lateral raise for a total of 7 exercises. Now I say lateral raise and not shoulder press, just because like I wouldn't say to do a shoulder press movement along with 2 chest exercises and 2 of these back exercises. Like you're going to be carrying a lot of fatigue into that lower day, which is kind of what I was touching on earlier. Like from this leg day to this upper day, you have rest, okay? So we'll go ahead and put rest. And we'll just draw little Z's. If you do all of these things and you try to go into upper day, that's where it can kind of hold you back a little bit. And so that's why I wouldn't recommend doing this like a shoulder press here, just simply because you are trying to reduce the amount of fatigue that you bring on to a session-to-session basis. So now let's move on to the lower day. Duplicate. Lower day is simply going to include a squat pattern. And this is a very controversial take. I don't do a hip hinge movement on my lower day, and a lot of people ask me why. I don't think that you have to do that twice throughout the week. As long as you add in a 3rd set of a leg curl, I think your hamstrings will develop fine, and that's just from what I found with my personal volume, my personal training. And it's also helped me honestly grow my hip hinge a little bit more. And it's honestly given me more time in this lower session to do other things, like the calf raise, like the hip thrust, like the adductors. So I'm not exactly exhausted for those after that hip hinge. Because again, like a hip hinge is a heavy movement, bro. I can't grab 50-pound dumbbells and just rep them out for 1,000,000 reps and grow them, like grow my hamstrings. Like that's just not how it's going to work. I do have to load up 335 pounds onto a barbell and bend over and lift it back up, and my lower back's cooked and my CNS is cooked. Like that's a very taxing exercise, and so that's why I'm not going to do it on the lower session. But that's where I really focus on the accessories, like the calf raise, like the hip thrusts, like the adductors. So okay, we'll do the squat pattern. We'll add in the leg extension, obviously, because we're trying to maximize what people see from the front. I'm not too worried about what people are seeing from the back, but I will be when I step onto a stage. So that's why I'm also going to do a leg curl, okay? But we're going to add volume here to it because we're not doing the RDL. And then we'll go ahead and finish off calf raises, calf raise, adductor, and then our optional one of the hip thrust, which again, it looks like it's already colored here, but we'll go ahead and color it purple so everything's nice and pretty and uniform. That's going to be optional. That is how you fully program push-pull legs up or lower. Let me total up all the volume from my split, and I'll put it in this box in the corner here where I'm currently at. I'll move over so you guys can see, and then we'll discuss some other tips and wrap up the video. Okay, so this is the overall volume that each of my muscle groups will be getting on a week-to-week basis, and this is based off of my personal needs. Obviously, my back is one of my biggest things that I was trying to grow for a very long time, so I put a lot of sets into that. So that's why it says 8 to 10, because I do believe because your back is so big, it's going to need an extra set or two. But other than that, I think that's a really good way to break down a split, especially the way I do it. Now you can do 3 sets on some of these exercises, and so that's why like some of them, like the biceps, triceps, says 6 to 8. But for the most part, I do just 2 sets for everything, and that's because the harder you push in those 2 sets, and if you train close to failure, you'll be good. Those are some other points that I do want to talk about really quick before we wrap up this video. Just some dieting stuff and some training keynotes, and we'll be good. Okay, so that is the full split. You guys got pretty much that entire breakdown, the pros and cons of the split itself, and now this is just simple training and diet tips that I think would help you guys just grow your physique a little bit better overall. Also, another thing that I guess I didn't note, which we'll make a little side note eventually right after this, we'll talk about abs and cardio, but for now let's stick to the diet and training. And we'll go ahead and start on the diet side. First off, carbs are your best friend, okay? Now, it's like a very crazy thing that people just have this stigma that carbs are terrible for you. I can't believe that people live without them, so let's go ahead and get a picture of a bread slice. PNG, man. You look yummy. Oh, man, this makes me hungry. Overall, carbs are the reason you guys will have more energy inside and outside of the gym, because they do provide you with a little substance called glycogen, and when you do train, your glycogen stores are depleted, and that's why it's important to kind of refuel carbs before and after training. Now, your highest carb meals should be directly before you train and directly after you train. So before you train, I would recommend around, I would say 60 grams. And right after you train, I would recommend anything 100 plus. That's when your insulin receptors are the most sensitive to muscle growth. So repairing them with carbs and glycogen is very important. That's kind of just the simplest way I could put that. Carbs are going to be your friend. Make sure you eat your carbs. Continuing on with this theme of diet, protein. Okay, protein, you're going to want around 0.8 grams per lean pound of body mass. Okay, your entire body is not muscle. That's what I mean by lean body mass. If you were, then bro, you would be a freak. If you were 200 pounds of muscle, you would genuinely be the Hulk smash. So when I say 0.8 grams per lean pound of body mass, that means for every pound of your weight that is muscle. So let's say, because I do weigh around 192 pounds, I would consider around 30 of those pounds to be fat. So I should really only be aiming for 140, 150 grams of protein every single day. Is that what I shoot for? No, it's fine to overeat protein as long as you do hit your calorie goal. So we'll go ahead and make a little asterisk here. It's okay to overeat within caloric goal, okay? So if you're trying to lose weight or burn fat, then overeating and obviously over consuming calories is not going to be the way to do that. You have to be in a calorie deficit to burn fat, so have to be in calorie deficit to burn fat. You're not going to burn fat by being in a caloric surplus. That's how you gain weight and gain fat. Okay, so but weight gain and fat gain are 2 completely different things. But I think that's just going to be a separate video where I will take a full deep dive into dieting and how to approach that in the most effective way possible. I'm trying not to use a lot of buzzwords for you guys, just because I don't want to, rack your brain. This is supposed to be very easy entry access. So as long as you're hitting that parameter, you should be fine. You could read into it on your own time if you want, but I think that's just going to have to be a separate video, just because that is a very long topic to talk about, especially because dieting does have so many different portions to it. And I think there's different dieting approaches, especially if you're cutting, if you're trying to get lean, if you're trying to main gain, all this different type of stuff. And this is just overall dieting tips and tricks that will help you along with your progression of this split. Now, the last thing I will talk about is water. Please drink, and then we'll go ahead and get a little ooh, type thing. Please drink your water. You do want to be hydrated, and that's why I do recommend that people drink 3-to-1 proportionate potassium to their sodium. Potassium and sodium are examples of electrolytes that come through your diet, but not a lot of people drink their potassium, and that is how you flush and regulate your water, your water stores. So like, let's say like I am feeling very bloated. That's why you'll see people online in like the BP community just drink coconut water, because it is very high in potassium, or they'll eat like a crap ton of bananas. So if you're having a ton of sodium, especially throughout the day, like you're talking McDonald's, anything with salt, stuff like that, processed foods, going to be very high in sodium. That's why you get bloated, and then you're just kind of super watery. But we don't want to be like that. We want to kind of retain water in the good way and then flush out anything that's bad. So 3-to-1 proportionate potassium to sodium, but drink your water. And especially if you are taking creatine, you're going to want to drink even more water. A common misconception about creatine is that you get bloated, but that is, in my opinion, the entire purpose of creatine is water retention. Water retention does help build your muscles, because your muscles are made up of primarily water. Therefore, if you are taking creatine, which I do recommend everyone in this world takes, it's a very good supplement. It's not gonna, it's not like the muscle powder. You're not gonna look like you're on steroids. It's not gonna do anything crazy. You can even miss a couple days throughout the week and you'd be fine. But I personally take it for the cognitive benefits of it, and it's also just really good for hydration. Like, it does help retain water in your body, but you do have to drink more often than not, because otherwise you will be dehydrated. And if you are dehydrated, then you're not going to grow muscle properly, because again, you can't get a good pump or get all these lifts if you have no water in your system. You're going to look dry, and that's not the entire goal that we're going for with this. We're just trying to, obviously put on size, get big, get shredded, stuff like that. And I think that really covers all the dieting tips I had, honestly. Like, I don't really think there's much else that is very kind of essential. Like, I would say, like, this is another thing, but like having a whole foods approach is going to be a lot easier, especially like if we go ahead and we look at whole foods diet. If we look at this plate right here, you'll notice a couple things. The first thing off the bat, protein is the smallest group, okay? Why? Because you really don't need as much as people tell you that you do. That's how people do get fat, especially in the bodybuilding community. They'll be like, oh my god, but I'm eating so healthy and I'm still gaining weight. Why? Because you're still over consuming calories, right? So the only way to lose weight, lose fat equal deficit, okay? You have to be in a calorie deficit. Can you read that? Is that legible? You like that? Do you like that? So that's the simplest way to put it, okay? But again, if we look at this plate right here, can I erase this now? If we look at this plate right here, you have the protein, which again is small. Plate right here, you have your carbs, and you have even more carbs. So you have your veggies, your fruits, whatnot, and you also have some fats, but mainly this is how you want to eat, okay? I hope that makes some sort of sense. That is pretty much the dieting approach that I personally follow, because it is going to be very hard to overconsume on calories if you're just tracking everything. And again, you're still including your carbs. You're not just getting your carbs from rice, you're also getting it from your veggies, so you're getting all your micronutrients. I guess it's another thing. We'll go ahead and we'll draw that here. Micronutrients are very important, because how you feel will determine how you are able to look. And I say that because if you go to the gym and you don't feel that good, then how are you going to be able to push yourself to grow muscle, like to the proper degree that you would be otherwise? So that's why making sure to get your micronutrients in, because micronutrients determine how you feel, while macronutrients determine how you look. And that is just something that I feel like is pretty common knowledge at this point. But again, this is, again, very entry way on how to diet. So that is a good some dieting tips for you guys to kind of memorize. And then supplements, I would just include in a diet video. I won't get into all that now. That's a very other deeper topic. So let's go ahead and let's get into the training stuff. I think it's like 1 a.m. So we'll start with some simple things. Technique is key. Technique is key. Okay, it doesn't matter if you bench the most or curl the most or squat the most or whatever if you have bad form. That's because simply in bodybuilding, you want to make sure you're training muscle groups the way they're intended. So you want to make sure that you are training your bicep if you're doing a curl and not your lower back. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory with anything. So that's why if you guys have seen my videos, which we'll go ahead and pull up here, quick little plug of the TikTok. Malaysia. God, turn that volume down. We'll go ahead and we'll watch this video here. Ready? This is literally me. So you got set up, everything. I already did my 2 warm-up sets. Fast to the concentric, control it, bang. The form's regulated. You're getting the same form. Even if it's a slower rep, you're getting the same form. Let's go watch barbell row, something that people mess up all the time. Oh, good technique. Good technique. Good technique. Don't, put your ego in the way of growing muscle. And that's something that I will add on to this. So is warm up / stretch. Okay, you want to warm up and stretch before you work out, and that includes your warm-up exercises. So I personally do like an active warm-up where I'll do some like lunging, some rollouts. I'll bend over, touch the ground, do some arm circles, do some push-ups, some pull-ups, whatnot. And then I'll also, before I do an exercise, I'll do 2 warm-up sets per exercise. So if I'm doing incline bench and my goal weight for my 2 top sets is 245, I'll warm up with a plate and I'll warm up with 185, and then I'll go into the 245 set. That's really just to help regulate the technique even more, because technique is key. I'm not going to walk in the gym and be able to do perfect form without just getting a feel for it. So it's just kind of like feeler sets. You're not pushing yourself. Like, don't use heavy weights on those. That's so dumb. What else do I want to talk about? Oh my god. McQueen is fading. Another thing about training, please rest. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add another woo here. You do want to rest because muscle is built outside the gym just as much as it is built inside the gym, and that's why, again, dieting is very, very important, just as much as resting is. So please do take your rest days seriously. That is something that I'm still working on myself, so I only say that in spite of myself, and I hope that does inspire me to take my rest days a little bit more seriously. Another thing with training, we'll go ahead and I'm just going to add in the abs and cardio stuff here. Abs 2 times a week. Okay, so fit them in whenever you can. And if they're a weak point, I would do them in the beginning of a session. And again, abs have 2 functions, okay? Knees to elbows and vice versa. So literally your abs have 2 different functions, going like this and going like this. Bring your knees to your face. That's just literally the simplest way I could put that. So you could do cable crunches, leg raises. You could do literally just crunches on the ground with leg raises on the ground. You could do captain's chair with decline sit-ups. Like literally however you want to do those 2 functions, do them twice a week. And you give them the same volume, the same approach, 2 to 3 sets, 5 to 10 rep range. Cardio, again, very simple. Cardio is very goal dependent. So we'll go ahead and put that here. Cardio is goal dependent. You can do more cardio if you're trying to lose more weight quicker, or if you're eating more, then I would do more cardio. But again, cardio can come in different forms. So we'll go ahead and add that. Walking at gym or sports. So when I say walking, I just mean getting steps in throughout the day. When I say at gym, I'm saying like the treadmill or doing the Stairmaster. And then sports, especially if you're in high school or you're a college athlete, or you do participate in some sort of like men's league or women's league, whoever's watching this, that's just more cardio. So if you can find a way to track it, I would. But again, if I had to recommend anything, it's 10 to 15,000 steps every single day. That's just going to be a really good way to make sure you are in a slight calorie deficit, or you're just right there maintaining your body weight. Never really pushing your weight too high. Man, I really do think I'm just gonna have to make a whole video about dieting, because there's so much that goes into it that I want to share in here, but I want to make this video like extra long. And honestly, I guess my last like training tip is do what's best for you. Like, do what works best for you. So do what works best for you. And we'll add in a smiley face there, because it's something that I experience all the time. And I'll give you guys a great example here. Personally, I do dumbbell curls instead of like preacher curls or other forms of curls the most, just because I do prefer doing it on a dumbbell, and that's just a personal preference, just what I choose to do. And I have found the most development in my biceps from doing them with dumbbells than other things, but it's simply because I enjoy it. I'm sure I would receive the same amount of growth if I did preacher curls, but I choose to do dumbbell curls, and that's just a personal choice. And if anyone judges me for that, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, literally just train the way you want. And again, while this video is it's supposed to be very informational, it's supposed to help you out, don't copy any of this advice one for one. Like, just figure things out on your own. This is all stuff that I have applied to my training to get to where I have gotten with my diet, with my split, with all the tips and everything else. So as long as you figure out, what works best for you, it's not going to look exactly like this. And that's just the truth and the reality of training, is that like, if I trained like Arnold did, would I look like Arnold? Probably not. And there's a lot of, other things that, he was taking that I'm not. So that's just a blatant truth of life. But yeah, I think that is a wrap on everything that I wanted to cover in this video. Let me go ahead and close out of Microsoft. And yeah, I think that's it, guys. So that is how you fully program push-pull legs, upper lower. That's the full split in its entirety, some dieting approaches, some training tips, the pros and cons of the split and whatnot, and then just whatever else I was rambling on about in that video. I'm sure it'll be fun to listen back to when I chop this up. So I hope you guys like this different style of video, and if you guys want more of these things in the future, definitely drop a comment down below. Like I said, I will be releasing a program on this eventually here soon. It'll just be just probably an aesthetics guide, just to talk about push-pull legs, upper lower, some dieting, some training tips, and whatnot. But if you don't want to pay for that, bro, just watch this video in its entirety, and it covers pretty much everything else that you would need to know. Finally, for the last time, do not do this one for one. Again, I'm not someone who is a professional in anything. I literally just post on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and I just film workout videos. Like, I'm just a guy on the internet who decided to one day set up his phone and record a video. So take it for what you will, but I hope you guys cannot treat me as a trusted source, just because I feel like I do kind of have some time in this space now to kind of give you guys my advice and find my voice in this. But yeah, bro, overall, I hope this video did help you out. And again, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll feel free to answer anybody that's valid. You know what I mean? If it's a question about something that I covered in this video, I probably wouldn't answer it just because I covered it in the video. Just watch. But otherwise, guys, you already know, I appreciate your support on a day-to-day basis, and I hope you guys, again, enjoy this video. And yeah, let me know if you want something like this in the future. I think I will end up doing a diet video, and then maybe a full training video with certain stuff like this. So we'll see. My mind's always flowing, and I'm always open to whatever you guys have to recommend. So I'll catch you guys next time, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.